Greetings and shalom. Welcome to another Health Talk with Lisa. Alrighty, so the segment for this week's podcast is fueled by a conversation that took place at the workplace on yesterday. So let's get into it, and then I'll give you my title. So I had this coworker that came to me, and she said, "Oh, Professor Thomas, before you leave today, I want to tell you something." She says, "I haven't been feeling well here lately, and I take a lot of vitamins. I take CoQ10 or whatever it's called." And I say, "Yes, it's CoQ10." She says, "I take my vitamin C, my vitamin E. I take turmeric. I take elderberry. And I take all these different vitamins, but I just feel worse." And I looked at her and I'm like, "Okay." I said, well, then the question I have for you is, what is it that you're not doing? I say, because vitamins and supplements are designed to fuel the body and to give the body what it needs, because you're not giving the body what it needs by way of nutrition. I say, so there is something that you're doing that is now causing counterproduction. So now she looks at me and she's like, "Oh, well, I don't know what that could be, because I hardly eat anything." And I'm sitting up here thinking, I'm like, well, that's a lie, because I've been watching you eat all week. So I'm not sure why she made that statement. Maybe she's eating a little bit less than what her usual is, but she says, but I said, "Well, tell me this here." I said, "What did you eat today? Because I saw your lunch today." It just so happens that our campus president had some type of tailgating, event at the job. And so he had hot dogs and links and hamburgers and salad, potato salad in the tub, and chips and all kind of things. And then he had leftover fruit from the evening before, because we had an advisory board meeting, so we had sandwiches and fruit from the evening before. And so she says, "Yeah, I ate hot dogs and I ate a hamburger, but I couldn't eat all the hamburger." And I said, "Okay, well," I said, "Okay." And of course I saw her with, the cookies, and even in her hand as she spoke to me, she had a big old slice of cheesecake about that big. I said, "Okay." I said, and then she had her little, she had a container. I said, "What's in that container?" She said, "Oh, and I drink coffee all day, every day." I said, "Oh, okay, really?" I said, "How often are you drinking this coffee?" She said, "I start out with this big old container at home, and then I get here and I just keep refilling." And I said, "Oh, you're right. I do see you in the break room having coffee quite often." She said, "Oh, yeah, I drink coffee all day, every day." I said, "Do you drink it black?" She says, "No, I drink it full of cream and sugar." And I said, "Oh, okay." And so I'm taking it all in. And I said, "Okay." I say, "And you also still smoke?" She said, "Oh, yes, I have to have my cigarettes." I said, "Well, the reason why you are still feeling worse is because you're eating all the wrong foods, you're still smoking, and you're not getting the proper nutrition." I said, "And not to mention, I do know you're not getting the proper rest." I said, "Because you're here just as late as I am," because she's an admissions rep. I say, "So you're here just as late as I am, when everyone else in your department is usually gone by 5, no later than 6. And then you're back here first thing in the morning, plus you drive for Uber and DoorDash when you leave here. So I already know that you're not getting enough sleep too. She's like, yeah, that's right. I said, uh-huh. So you're not doing all of the necessary things to now give your body the rest, the proper nutrition, you know, feeding your cells. I said, and so with you drinking all this coffee, are you getting enough water? She said, does my coffee not count? I say, well, you do use water to make coffee, but you have to think about this. You now add things to that coffee. So you're really still not getting the water that your cells need. I say again, you're being counterproductive to your own body. So I said, so if I can just keep it pretty bluntly, you're pretty much saying when you take these vitamins, oh, I'm going to help my body. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to help my body. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. So this is what you're doing. You're teeter-tottering. You're on the seesaw. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. And that's exactly what you're doing all day, every day. I said, our bodies are already having to do this throughout the day to keep us stable and to maintain homeostasis. But your body is doing this here. I say, so there is a difference. Okay. So what needs to happen is that you're going to have to figure out what it is that you want to do to maintain a balance, so therefore you can start to see the effects of the supplements, the vitamins and the minerals and the supplements that you're trying to put in your body. It's going to take you making some modifications. And she's like, I thought just taking the vitamins was going to do it. Not if you're working against the vitamins. So you have to address the bigger issue, right? So she didn't like that. But the thing is, I tell people all the time, if you're going to come to me and ask me questions, seeking counsel, then you can expect that I'm not going to lie to you, for one. I'm going to tell you the absolute truth as I know it and understand it. So, go figure, right? So let's get into this. So our topic on today is that supplements aren't a magic fix. So you got to look at lifestyle versus your supplements, or supplements versus lifestyle. You know, what's really holding you back? Well, the question of what's really holding you back, probably 9 times out of 10, you're holding you back. Because popping vitamins and minerals and CoQ10 and turmeric and elderberry because you have seen on social media that this stuff is good for you, it's not going to help, and it's not going to override your bad habits. The supplements are meant to fill in the gaps, not override the habits that you cease to want to get rid of. So what we're going to look at is that smoking messes with the nutrient absorption. I told her on yesterday, as you're smoking, your cells cannot absorb, the nutrients. It cannot absorb the oxygen. It cannot absorb the minerals. It can't do any of that. Why? Because it is robbing you. That poison, that chemical is robbing your cells. And it is preventing you from receiving what it is that it needs. The processed foods that you're taking in, it's going to continue to rob you. I told her, I said, you eat a lot of processed foods. I said, you eat a lot of sugar. She said, well, I haven't had any sugar today. And I looked down at that cheesecake. I said, you do realize I know this is your second piece, right? Not to mention, you've been drinking coffee all day long. I don't get it, people. I don't get it. So all this does is just spike inflammation in the body, which is a natural killer. And it's on the rise, and people are not realizing that this is taking us out. So, not only does smoking not only steal those nutrients, but also it floods the body with all the toxins. And it makes those vitamins, it makes it so difficult for those vitamins to fight. And so now, even with your filling your system with a lot of vitamins, that's all you're doing. And then now it's causing an uphill battle. Same thing with the sugary coffee and the cheesecake and everything else she put in her body. All it's doing is spiking that blood sugar and again causing inflammation. So no amount of CoQ10 can fully counter any of that. And again, it's counterproductive. So what I want to do is talk about, in this segment, what needs to happen here, perhaps what she's doing and what a lot of people are doing, and how it is counterproductive, and how you need to have a healthy foundation, in order for your supplements to actually work. Okay. And maybe in her case, and if that is, a situation with someone listening today, maybe how, we can talk about some practical, tips to swap out maybe those sugary drinks, for sugary drinks for maybe a black or herbal tea, because black tea is good for you. You don't even have to put any sugar in it. In fact, you can have all types of teas and don't have to put a sugar in it at all. But if you have to have something sweet, then maybe a real refined, true honey. Okay. So something to think about. And then instead of having the cheesecake and all of the sweets and stuff, do a more natural fruit, and eat nuts and things like that. Okay. So let's dive in this a little bit more. So CoQ10, it supports heart health. Okay. And it also supports energy production in the cells. But then if you are smoking or putting any other toxins in the body, then that would deplete the antioxidants. So even though you're probably putting the supplement in the body, smoking and other toxins, even certain, alcohols, especially if it's not a pure natural, it's going to deplete that. Elderberry, it boosts immunity. But then if you have chronic inflammation from all the processed foods, from all the, the lunch meats and all the hot dogs and everything that our boss was, presenting to the staff on yesterday, then all it's going to do is just overwhelm it. It's like, it's like us pouring water into a leaky bucket, taking your vitamins and stuff. If you're not giving the body what it really needs, you might well just pour that water right into a bucket that has holes in it. So eating all those processed foods and all of those sugary, meals and things like that. She's like, well, I don't eat sweets all the time. Well, think about this here. You got your processed foods. You have other foods that have sugars in them. So you don't know, even when you're eating out, there are sugars and certain things and chemicals that are placed in these foods that you're probably unaware of. So yeah, so it's got your blood sugar levels doing this here all day, every day, right? So when you're consuming these things, it's going to spike the insulin and it's going to stress the body out, right? Countering any supplement benefits. So what we want to do is realize that vitamins are helpers, but they're not superheroes. Okay, they're supposed to help fill in the gaps where you may not be getting enough of what it is that you're supposed to be having. So it's supposed to fill in the gaps, but it's not supposed to put on the cape and become your hero. Okay, so again, if you got to drink coffee, then try swapping it out with a tea. Okay, I would prefer a green tea because you need the antioxidants to now break up those free radicals. Do you not know that it's the free radicals that is in the body, that's lingering around in the body? You have some right now. Everybody do. You have free radicals in your body right now waiting to attach themselves to cellular objects and become cancerous. Well, if you're taking in more antioxidants, keeping the body alkaline, then you can break up those free radicals so therefore they can be swept away and dismissed out of the body. So think about it. If you're getting enough antioxidants in, and then it's like you're just taking a broom and then just going through and just sweeping those free radicals right out your body and out your system, so therefore they won't cause any cancers. Okay. So instead of having a cheesecake, ditch them for maybe a handful of almonds or some berries. Okay, they're nutrient dense and they won't tank your energy, because if you're eating a lot of sweets, all you're gonna do is just crash. Now I know for some people smoking is tough. Okay, but even cutting back just one cigarette a day while adding a short walk, that's another thing. She wasn't even exercising enough. She's not walking enough. She's not, energizing her body by spending enough time outside and actually walking and getting that energy, building up her energy that way. But rather deplete herself. So if she swap out, and start removing at least one cigarette a day instead of smoking 2 and 3 packs a day, then that can now shift the balance in her system. And she has this horrible cough. And she knows it. She says, oh, it's the smoker's cough. Oh, honey, I'm very aware of what it is. So with her has been smoking for so long, I can only imagine what her lungs look like. Her lungs are probably the color of my blouse here. They're probably black as tar, because that's all that's in her body is tar from the cigarettes. So if you are a smoker, I encourage you, just start, really consider modifying that and taking that away, because it's not doing anything but, not only hurting your lungs, but smoking, science has found, doctors have found, it is also causing heart disease. So when people are, dropping dead due to heart attacks, cardiac arrest, it could have very well been because they've been smokers for so long, or been around individuals that have been smokers for a long time. So we can't expect pills to do the heavy lifting. We got to do our part. So that's just that, so I just want to encourage, if the listeners, anyone that's listening to this, that you have to do what is necessary to keep your body in a good safe zone. That water is so important. I was telling her last night, you have to have that water. Your cells need it, your tissues need it, your bones, your brain, your mind, your skin, your eyes. I was telling a student yesterday, your ears even need it. I did a segment recently talking about how our hearing is connected to our nutrition and to the fluid in our system. So we have to think about all this. And for those of you that don't like water, your kidneys and your body will let you know a little bit later, probably sooner than later, how important it is to have water. And although elderberry is great for immunity, but inflammation from eating all of those processed foods, drinking whole milk, that cow's milk that we probably should not be drinking, because it itself has a lot of inflammation in it, or causes a lot of inflammation because of all the pus. All of that stuff works against our bodies, right? So I just want to encourage you, because and then she was taking turmeric. She said she's taking turmeric. I said, how are you taking the turmeric and the elderberry? She said, I'm taking turmeric and elderberry in the gummies. More sugar. Oh, I can't win. More sugar. I told her, I said, you know what you can do? Just take the turmeric and just get the ground turmeric, or ground it yourself, and just sprinkle it over your food. Better yet, do it the way that I do it. Not only sprinkle it on my food and mix it in and cooking with it, but I will also take it and put it in my tea. Oh, I love brewing a nice cup of tea, especially at nighttime and in the morning, but especially at night. And I would take that turmeric powder and I pour it right in my tea along with cinnamon, and I'll drop some cloves in there. Every now and then I may put raw honey in there, maybe, and sometimes I just drink it like it is, and I will just go right on to sleep after that. And mind you, that's either a black tea or a hibiscus tea or a green tea. That's just the way I like it. But it has to have turmeric. It has to have the cloves and the cinnamon. Those are my combinations right there. I also take those very herbs, and then I will put it in a jar, and then I will also add oregano, and then I will mix it with a honey, and then use it as an antibiotic. Okay, and then don't forget the green tea. Once again, great antioxidant, and it is good for breaking up free radicals in your body, because you need to maintain the 80-20 rule. 80% alkalinity, 20% acidic. Okay, better on the alkalinity side. Why? Because cancer and diseases cannot thrive in an alkaline environment, only in an acidic environment. And what type of environment society advertise? Acidic. They're going to advertise an acidic environment all day long. Why? Because they want you sick. They want you unwell. They want you dying. I mean, that's hard to say, but it is what it is. They talk about it in their on their platforms. They talk about it in their conferences. How they always want to depopulate. I'm not lying about this. Y'all know this. And they do things to do just that. It's no wonder that the commercials advertise food that that we don't need. And the very foods that they advertise, it's not even permissible in other countries. Well, at least the way it's prepared here, it's not. With all the chemicals, all the additives, and you go somewhere else and it's more pure. Come on now. It's no wonder about that. And then here we are, we got all these heavy metals in our systems. They're over here spraying us with things in the air all the time. People are just sick. Why? It makes no sense. At my job here recently, everyone in my immediate area in the education department came down sick with COVID. And they came by and they said, "Where's everybody?" I said, "They're out sick with COVID." "Why are you here?" "Because I'm not sick." "Why aren't you sick?" "Because my immune system is on point." "What do you mean? I don't have to be sick with everyone. I can't even tell you the last time I was sick. I don't even remember back that far." Because I don't get sick like that. If I get a headache, I know that maybe I didn't drink enough water today. So what am I going to do? I'm going to drink more water just to ensure that I decrease this headache. Because 9 times out of 10, that's probably the issue. And maybe the other time, somebody probably got on my nerves. So that's that stress. So I'm going to get rid of that too. But I don't get sick. So I was just telling one of the potential students, he was talking about how his son was having some lung issues. And I asked him, I say, "How often do your baby spend time outside? How often?" He said, because he was telling me how often he's spending time in and out the hospital. I said, "I want you to try this. When your baby comes home," he said, as a matter of fact, he just came home today. I said, "I want you to let him spend at least 30 minutes outside. Let him get some sunlight. Because that's important. This is now activating a nutrient in your body, in your system. That sun is important. Being outside and being grounded, getting and receiving nutrients is important to this temple. I told him, I said, if you allow him to spend some time outside, and it don't have to be during the high points of the day because that is hot, but right before the sun starts to set, let him spend some time outside, so therefore he can have that vitamin D conversion. He'll sleep better. I told him, I say, if you allow him to do that, give it about a good 2 weeks to a month, I bet you will see a difference. He won't spend as much time in that hospital. Studies have even shown that if you have a two bed hospital room, the person that sleeps closest to the window, they get discharged the fastest. Look it up. So he said, I will try that. I said, I'm just telling you, you need to spend more time outside. You need to spend more time being active. You need to stop being counterproductive to your own bodies and put the right thing in your body. Now, it is Sabbath morning, and I am making this video because it is necessary. I'm teaching, and I'm teaching about health. And as I am teaching about health, it is important that people understand that you have to take care of the temple. The Most High gave us this temple. And just as I'm about to wrap it up, even I am about to go put the right things in my body. Every morning and into mid-afternoon, my morning meal starts with at least 1 egg, spinach, mixed peppers, which is going to be colorful because your diet should have beautiful colors in it. Only a whole wheat with multi-grain toast. Okay? You need to add those things and then have fruit on the side. And if I don't eat any of that, I'm going to have a smoothie. I'm going to have a protein-packed smoothie. So think about the things that you're putting in your bodies. Oh, you're probably wondering, well, what about your meat? I don't have to have meat. But if I do, it's going to be less than 4 ounces. And that's probably for the entire day because I don't have to have it. Think about this here. The animals that you eat, what do they eat? I'm going to pause there for a moment so you can think about it. The animals that you eat, the flesh, because you're eating flesh, you eat their muscle and their skin. Yeah, because that's what you're eating. They're flesh. What do they eat? When they're grazing the fields, what do they eat? Exactly. So did it ever occur to you that maybe what they eat, you probably should be eating? So think about this here. If you're going to eat flesh, you probably want to minimize how much of that flesh you're going to eat. If you just have to have it. Okay? Eat your green leafy. Eat your fresh fruits. I'm going to prepare today, for those who are interested, I'm going to prepare today a cabbage mixture with collard greens. It has a smoked turkey. I got my green cabbage that I'm cutting up. It's going to have my colorful bell peppers because I love color. My meals have to be colorful. And I am adding collard greens. I'm cutting up my collard greens. And I'm using a broth. I'm going to mix all that up. And then I'm going to put it in a broth mixture. And I'm going to cook it slow. That's going to be the meal for the day. Vegetables. And I'm going to have my fruit on the side. And I'm going to make such a big pot of it because I'm not only just feeding myself, but I like to feed my family as well. So I'm making a lot of it. And that's all we need. A good old cabbage and green mixture with mixed peppers. So add more color to your food. And then I'm going to leave you with this last thing. If your food makes you tired after eating it, it's the wrong food. Let me repeat that for those back there in the back. If your food, after consuming it, makes you tired, then you are eating the wrong foods. Okay? Again, your supplements that you are taking in is supposed to assist in filling in those gaps because you are not getting enough of maybe a vitamin, a mineral, or some type of nutrient. Okay? So don't rely on your supplements to be your savior. Okay? But rather to be maybe an enhancer. Don't forget about your exercise. Cut your toxins. Okay? Increase your water intake. Increase your sleep intake. For those who only get 2, maybe 3 hours of sleep, just get a little bit more. Just to renew yourself. De-stress your life. Okay? Renew your mind. Stay in your word. Maintain the right spirit. Okay? And then just stay positive. And always remember, take care of yourself and continue to love others. And until next time, take care, and thank you for listening to another Health Talk with Lisa. Be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Take care until next time. Shalom.